like freshman in high school, passing periods, lunch period. Like I was just cold calling GCs and developers.
You're a 16, 17-year-old kid and you're trying to trade up enough to have 50 grand.
What we're doing is building something bigger than any one of us. Building American infrastructure to build American dreams.
You realize that's crazy. Like, I love crazy. That's crazy. From South Bend to Evansville and everywhere in between, this is Get In, the show focused on the Hoosier State and the incredible stories happening here today. I'm Nate Spengel, founder of Get Indiana, and I will be your host for today's conversation. Before we get into it, just a reminder, this episode of Get In is brought to you by Cluster Truck, Indy's go-to delivery kitchen. If you haven't tried Cluster Truck yet, you are missing out. They have over 100 menu items, everything from hand-stretched pizza to tacos, salads, breakfast burritos, and my personal favorite, their pad thai add chicken. They've got something for everyone, plus delivery is always free. Now here's the best part. If you order right now, by the time this podcast is over, your Cluster Truck order will already be at your door. It's that fast. So whether you're catching a game or just too busy to cook, head to clustertruck.com, order now, and use code INDY, I-N-D-Y, at checkout for 20% off orders of $25 or more. Trust me, your stomach's gonna thank you. Reminder, that code is INDY, I-N-D-Y. Now let's get into the episode. Today I'm joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Will Schuler, CEO and owner of Willpower Excavation, a leader in Indiana's excavation and utility contracting industry. And Will is also the youngest member in the history of YPO. He is a hustler. You may remember the episode we did with Scott Lingle and Austin talking. He was a shout out. That started the conversation, I think, last fall, maybe summer, and I'm super pumped to sit down and talk with Will today. He's got deep Indiana roots and a strong entrepreneurial drive. He has built a company that shapes landscapes while championing values like ownership, teamwork, and simplicity. Today, we're going to be digging deep into the birth and growth of Willpower Excavation. That's a dirt joke for anyone out there. And we're going to talk about what's coming down the pipeline, the road ahead, and all the ways that you're making an impact in our Central Indiana community. Will, welcome to Get In.
Super thankful to be here, Nate.
Dude, I am pumped. Okay, so I'm not even going to butcher the story that I think Scott told originally, but this whole thing started, I mean, it goes back, there's a family farm business, yep. this journey through that got you to showing up to Hamilton Heights High School with an invoice from a customer that then like launched your business, right?
Yeah,
so take me back to early days. Where was entrepreneurship first present in your life?
Yeah, fantastic question. Entrepreneurship has always been present in my life. I was born in Wabash County, Indiana. My dad's a farmer and my mother was a public school teacher. And so my dad, my whole life growing up and still to this day, has been an amazing entrepreneur that I've always looked up to.
What school system in Wabash County?
You know it, Northfield Norseman.
Oh, buddy, that is the country school north of Wabash. There you go.
Wabash is funny. There's a county school on the north side of town in a cornfield, so that's Northfield, and then one on the south side of town in the woods, so that's Southwood.
Yeah.
And then you got Wabash City School. But
wow, how long did you live up there?
I lived up there my whole life up until 14 or 15 years old. So
okay.
The whole family was originally from there and family farm operation just outside of North Manchester, lived out in the countryside. And so it was a wonderful way to grow up. And like that's where my story started was growing up on the family farm. We were almost raised a couple generations back. Like it was work for everything. It was a row crop operation, 4-H animals and stuff. Family had done hogs and stuff. Even in the simplicity of like we never had satellite TV or direct TV. Like it was just satellite, and you could only get the channels with Andy Griffith, MASH, I Love Lucy, and then you had like 15.3 that had the radar on it.
Dude,
and that was pretty much it.
You're speaking my language. Like I grew up, I think I was like, I don't know, 3rd or 4th grade when we moved out to the country, Bourbon, right? Like we were Triton, which like we played Northfield in football every year. And like I remember watching MASH and I Love Lucy. And you're right. I've never thought of it, but raised a few generations back.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's still to this day. Like I don't watch much TV. Journey, I got home from church the other day and it was like, I want to watch some black and white Andy Griffith. Like what a core value, great show it's amazing.
So how did you end up from Wabash down to the Indianapolis area?
Yep. So it was quite the transition. So us 6 kids and mom and dad were part of a bigger family farming operation. And so I had my whole life planned out from 7 or 8 years old. Like I wanted to spend my life doing what Dad did. Go to Purdue, like both my parents were Boilermakers, and come back to the family farm operation and continue to grow that legacy. So that was all planned out, and never wanted to leave Wabash County. But then some things started to change, and I don't know, I was probably 12 or 13 years old when I started to see changes in the family farm and the books and all the things that go into a family business like that. So unfortunately, when I was 13 or 14 years old, my grandmother had passed away, and she was the bookkeeper for the family farm and kind of the glue that held the whole family together. And so that set the farm on a different direction where in family fighting, and there were some major issues where the other side of the family had illegitimized some books, and it wasn't being ran as a healthy partnership or business. And so that quickly spiraled into Hatfield McCoy's massive family fight, community fight, and outfalling within the family and the farm. And so I was 14 or 15, like I say, when I started to see that fall apart, and pretty rapidly it got to the point of, I mean, all sorts of threats and slander and nastiness and theft, and cops being called, and just this terribly vicious story that developed. And so my parents made a conscious decision to kind of move us kids away, and it was a safety thing at the time. Like, they wanted to get us out of the community and out of the nastiness. I mean, just silly stuff going on. So they picked us up and moved us an hour and a half away when I was just 16 years old, just 15 to 16.
What grade were you in?
I don't know. What is that?
Is that freshman, sophomore year?
Yeah, freshman year.
Man, and you grew up in a small community. Like, those are your lifelong friends.
It was K to 12. And like, I had maybe 70, 80 kids in my class, and like knew everybody. My mother was a teacher at the school. She was the worst grade I ever got in school my entire
Of course she was,
career.
right?
Oh, yeah, she's
no one's harder on you than mom is.
Yeah.
So you pick up and move. Where'd you guys move down to?
Yeah, we moved to Cicero.
Okay.
Yeah, and there was no real connection. Like, it was just a spot on the map. Mom and Dad started looking for a good place to move us kids to, and there's a family in Boone County, awesome family, the Lamb family, Don and Dean Lamb. They had been a fraternity brother with Dad in college, and they'd always kind of farmed together and been good friends. And so we'd always kind of came down to Boone County area and around the north side of Indianapolis and visited with them. And so Mom and Dad thought that was a good spot to move us 6 kids to. So picked up and moved.
Where are you at in the range of the 6
Number
kids?
5 of 6.
So you're the young side of that.
Yeah. I got all the character, none of the babying. That's what I tell people.
There we go.
Yeah.
How much space is there between your siblings?
Hey, I've got triplet sisters that are 2 years older than me.
Oh,
and
man,
then
so
another
they're
brother.
like juniors.
Oh yeah.
In high school,
Yep.
and they're like, "Yeah, we're leaving." Like, sorry about trying to be the prom queen or whatever. Like,
yeah.
we're picking up and that's really hard, man.
Yeah, it is. And then another brother 2 years older than that, and then a baby sister who's 7 years younger than me. Is the 6 of us.
There you go. So you guys pick up, move down to Cicero,
Yep.
and like your dad spent his whole life farming.
Yep.
It's like, what do you like? What kind of career do you go try to find in a new place?
Yeah. So dad had transferred some farm ground and was still farming a little bit. And then he was always buying and selling ground. He's an amazing real estate entrepreneur, and he would always make money by buying and selling the ground he was farming on. So he never missed a beat and was just selling and transferring and 1031 and buying and selling farms. My mother, retired or stopped teaching, and she moved down, and so my parents moved down. And we all moved to Cicero. So us 6 kids. I mean, we'd been raised to work. Like, we had to work the family farm, and we weren't paid for that. That was expectations. So then we'd ride our bike down or drive the gator down to the next farms over to go make money. Played some sports up until the time where I was needed in a combine or needed in a tractor. And so none of us were super big into sports. It's like fall's a busy time in a farm family, along with every other period of the season.
Yeah, right? Yeah, it's like fall's really busy, but it leads us into spring's really busy. Like, that summer, it's pretty busy.
Yeah. So it's such a crucial part of my story is that upbringing, that life. I mean, pretty common in farm town communities, but the amount of school I missed to be needed on the farm, and it wasn't like unheard of or unseen or hidden. I think in one school year I missed 30 days, 35 days, like, because my dad would need me in a combine. Beans would get ready, and he'd send me a text at 9:30, 10 a.m., be like, "Hey, I'm going to send one of the guys to come pick you up. Need you in a grain cart, or need you in a combine." Or I would give my mother a hard time and try to hooky as much school as I could and skip as much school as I could to be in a ripper or
oh, absolutely. I mean, that's especially your 8th, 9th grade, dude. That's way more fun than being in geometry or whatever. And so that starts to parlay. And as I know the story goes, you come down, you're going to Hamilton Heights.
Yep.
I think for Indianapolis people, they're like, that's a farm school. But like from Northfield, that is nowhere near a farm school, right? Yeah. But you're going to Heights, and are you fitting in there? Are you making new friends again?
Yeah, I always did love school. I was usually near the top of the class, and I loved to learn. And so we moved to Cicero summer of what would have been freshman or sophomore year. And so I was more worried about job. Like I just worked crazy hours and always had something to do. It's like moved to a new area, don't know anybody, and so that summer before going into Hamilton Heights is kind of what started the excavation path. Didn't know anybody to farm with, didn't have any farm ground here locally. Dad was in a transition period with his ground. And so I saw a sign on the side of the road outside of Sheridan that said hiring operators and laborers. And I had called around a couple different construction companies and asking for a job in farm operations. But I'd always had this interest from the side in excavation because it does overlap with agriculture. I mean, we were always digging ponds or putting in drainage or tearing down tree lines and that kind of stuff. And so the summer there before going into Hamilton Heights, got a job for a small excavation company, and it was a blast. But then going into school, it was good. One funny story is sitting with the school counselor, and this was pretty like last minute to put together a school schedule, and we're picking classes and stuff, and I saw one, and it was entomology. I was like, oh yeah, study of bugs, I like that. And so I went into that class, and I get a couple weeks into that class when school started. Before I asked, like, when are we going to start learning about bugs? And they said, entomology is not the study of bugs, it's the study of words. Maybe it's etymology.
Etymology?
Etymology. Funny story that I made it a couple weeks into class before realizing that etymology is, in fact, not the study of bugs like I thought it was.
Etymology, E-T-Y-M-O-L-O-G-Y is the study.
But you see my confusion there.
And then
entomology, maybe that's the study of bugs. Anyway, Hamilton Heights was great. The teachers were fantastic. Quickly made some good friends, in the class.
I love that. Yeah. So you're working as a laborer in the construction.
Nights and weekends, and quickly was operating, and then quickly was like leading some guys and trusted to be left alone on job sites. And I'm talking, homeowner septic sewers and basements and just grading projects, drainage projects. And the guy who owned that excavating quickly latched on, like, oh, this is a farm kid. I could run anything. I could drive anything. It was pretty smart with numbers and math and reading blueprints. And so it was quick that I was taking leadership role there, and he entrusted me with a lot. And so I think within 6 months of like moving to Indianapolis and going to work and being an employee at this excavating company, at 6 months I was already like, hey, what's your thoughts on this business or businesses in this industry? Like, what's the biggest problem you face? And just asking him these questions.
Where did you learn to be curious about that?
Probably my father, just with the farming world. I mean, I knew some of the operations and economics of business and farming, and I saw the challenges of the business model in agriculture, and also the ugly outfalling of the family farm operation. Boy, that's a rapid education of what can go wrong in business and what business can be and partnerships can be.
And that would kind of like maybe even leave a bad taste about farming just in general.
It certainly left a bad taste. Like something I still kind of work through is the idea of partnerships and how quickly partnerships in business can get misconstrued or get sideways. And
dude, it is. We've had lots of people on that talk about that.
Yeah, and
it is like a spouse. Like someone that you trust completely. They say more money, more problems, right? Like when things start getting out of whack a little bit. And so having control and being the decision maker and things like that, like especially in your core business, it's tough because you don't have someone to bounce ideas off of with a lot.
Yep.
But on the other side, you don't have someone to like put their hand in the cookie jar and take too much. So it's like it's a give and take there.
Certainly.
So you're rocking and rolling with the excavation company.
Asking them a bunch of questions, looking for opportunities. I think at one point I even asked, like, what's your thoughts? Is there ever room for me to grow into an ownership position or anything? And like, to think back, that guy should have laughed me off right there. It's like, here's a 16-year-old kid asking if he could ever take ownership stake or find a way to partner or if there was ever any opportunities. And But he didn't laugh me off. He respected me, and he knew I was serious about it.
Do you still keep up with him?
Yeah, a little bit. I still, respect him a lot, and we don't compete much or anything like that. He's still in business and doing well, and he had told me at that time, he's like, well, I've got 2 boys in college, and they're going to come back, and they did. Rhett's running that business and doing well, and so. So from there, I knew is like, okay, I see opportunity here. It's something that really interests me. I've got a passion for it, and I saw a place in the marketplace for it. And so just dumbly, I would say, like, I thought, man, I could get into this. And I called it a Craigslist hustler. Like, I was always buying and selling trucks and tractors and 3-wheelers and 4-wheelers and like always tinkering, always fixing. I loved mechanical repair and just kind of always had an engineering mind. So like I was already working out the solutions in my mind at that time of I built an old truck and had a little bit of money saved up from working other farm jobs. And okay, if I could sell this and roll that there and buy an excavator and if I can get the cash flow to work.
It's like flipping the red paper clip into a house, right? It's you just got to keep trading up. You just got to keep trading up.
Yeah.
Okay, so you get to the point where you have what does an excavator cost?
40, 50 grand for anything decent.
So like you're a 16, 17-year-old kid and you're trying to trade up enough to have 50 grand?
I started more creative than that. I started by renting equipment. And so like the first job was funny enough. At school, I started talking about this, and what I did was I just had an Excel spreadsheet on my school-provided computer, and I just started researching any home builder, developer, commercial GC. Like I'm just straight Google search. I have no relationships. I don't have any family connections. Like I don't know anybody.
You're in a place that you don't like. Your dad doesn't know
Nothing.
anyone except for one other farmer in Boone County.
Exactly. So I just start making this Excel spreadsheet, and I would just stalk them on Google as much as I could, or on the state database, and look up who their LLC was filed under, and all those kind of things. And I just built out a spreadsheet of every home builder, developer, commercial GC, who their owner was, any contact information I could find for them, email addresses, phone numbers. And so it was like freshman in high school, I would try to get my classwork done fast so that I could sit in a quiet spot and make cold calls. And it was try to call 5 of them a day. Passing periods, lunch period. Like I was just cold calling GCs and developers and clients.
Bro, they're like, yo, you want to come to sit at the lunch table? You're like, no, I got to make my 5 cold
my
calls
day's
today.
busy. Yeah. And I would call these clients and I'd be like, I could come by anytime after 3 o'clock today or 4 o'clock today. And I would never mention my age or my circumstance or that I was in school. And I would try to set up, hey, ask for an opportunity to come by your office, look at any upcoming jobs you've got, any issues you've got that I could help you on.
And like, who was the first one that like booked a meeting with you?
A guy named Mark Gradison was, I think, the number 2 name on that list, and quickly got back to me. And he's got a custom home building business in Indianapolis. And so we met on a job site, and it was like, hey, I've got this problem. Can you solve it? Yep, I'll do it. I'll do it for X. And just went right to it with Mark. And there was other guys too. Like
did you walk up and he's like, what the like, who is this kid?
Oh, no. I matured pretty quick. And so I always would avoid talking about age, would avoid talking about anything that pointed to age or maturity or life circumstance. Like I came in as professional. And I would try to keep it short and sweet.
Yep,
like,
you got a problem, I can solve it.
I see his facial hair. I've been trying to grow this since like 13 years old. Like facial hair helps. And
he's got the dad's Rogaine on the cheeks, right? Like I need this beard to get this next job.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're down in Broad Ripple and you get your first gig.
Yeah, rent a mini excavator from Joe Bright that owns Bobcat of Indy, or owned Bobcat of Indy. And so rent an excavator, negotiated some payment terms where it's like pay for materials up front, pay for time and labor and equipment on the backside. So that I could get just enough money in to buy some materials and get going. And then it was just rent a machine for the day, work a 16-hour day while I had that on rent, and then offering it and send it back. And, rented. And then at some point bought the first excavator. And I did it by selling trucks and flipping and saving money and that kind of stuff.
And I guess, I didn't even think about that, where it's like, I don't know, what's the cost to rent a Bobcat or rent an excavator for the day?
Yeah, $700 for a day.
So you got $700 and it's like, okay, well, in 16 hours, I can get two full days of work out of one 24-hour rental.
Some of the equipment rental companies have got smart enough where it's like a day and then in fine print or 8 hours, whichever. And so you gotta be tricky about that.
Yeah.
And figure it out.
Wow. So you're getting those first jobs, and like, so the first one comes from, what was his name?
Mark Gradison.
Gradison. I feel like I've seen the name, right?
Yeah.
That's like a decent sized builder.
Oh, yeah.
To like give you an opportunity with the first one. And you deliver on the promise, and then he's like, cool, like,
Yeah.
like, did you
and
think
like,
much
don't
of
get me
it?
wrong, the first one was like a $2,000, like probably manual shovel, if I remember right, around something. And then it was a $4,000 and then an $8,000. It's like, it wasn't just
What's the time frame on
golden
that?
plate.
Where are you running like a 2,000 to a 4,000 to an 8,000 and what?
rapidly to 1 week over the next. Like as quick as I could get the cash flow to do it, I was rolling into the next, rolling into the next.
Dude, and like you're 16,
Yeah,
16?
I was almost 17 probably at that time, but 16.
So you're almost 17 years old and you're getting checks for $2,000. Like
Oh,
some kids will
yeah.
work a summer and not make $2,000.
Yeah, but also keep in mind, like I had been working and making money since, I don't know, 11 years old, like 12 years old. Again, we didn't get paid to work on the family farm. So there was a hog farm down the road, and I would ride my bike or drive the gator or a four-wheeler down there and pressure wash hog rooms at night, like after school, before the baby pigs had come in for the next rotation of hogs. And I'd get paid like $60 for every hog barn I washed. So like I'd been hustling and making money and buying snowmobiles for $1,000 and fixing them up and selling them for $2,000, like just anything you can imagine.
I mean,
that I could
you're
get my hands on.
16 years old. What was fun to you? Like what part of your life did you look at and were like, man, this is fun?
Farm kids can come up with some pretty fun stuff. So like we would go mess around. I don't want to say like light stuff on fire, but pretty well light stuff
on fire. Dude, oh yeah. Like
No,
and you gotta
tearing
be
down
creative.
trucks. Yeah, tearing down trucks and building trucks. Like the first real business was actually Will Power and Performance. And I was working on diesel trucks for people in the hay barn. And at this time I was 13 years old and like tearing down LBZ Duramaxes and doing injectors and turbos in trucks and I mean, pulling transmissions, putting axles.
How'd you learn
in.
how to do that?
Growing up on the farm, I've been turning wrenches since my hand was big enough to hold a wrench. Like we were driving tractors before we could reach the clutch. We would stand there to be able to push the clutch in on tractors, and so it just comes with it. Like growing up in that way, it sets you so far ahead, and just knowing the mechanicals.
When you think through like parenting that way, like do you think that's hard? Obviously you need help on the farm, but like there's a mixture between you don't want your kid to ever get injured or hurt,
Yeah.
but you also don't want to baby them. And like, how did your parents think about that?
The older I get, the more I look back and respect my parents. Like my parents at one point had 5 kids under 4 years old. Love my mother. Man, she's a strong mother to be able to turn us loose on the farm and let us run wild. And it's like we had a certain area of boundary protection where it's like we're running wild, but we're running wild on the farm. So it was more of an early education on PTO safety and mechanical and pinch points and like, hey, don't be an idiot. Put jack stands under that before you crawl under something and brace that up and don't put your hands where you would.
Yeah, and it's like some kids learn by like they have to touch the stove, but it's like
Oh,
you just
yeah.
gotta freaking you see it.
Yeah,
You know?
and you get hurt. I mean, I always had a black fingernail or something cut up, and it's like you do learn by mistake a little bit. But my dad and the farm hands did a pretty good job of keeping us safe, but letting us explore and letting us learn our own ways. And
Which I think is a powerful way to learn. Nowadays, you'd call that experiential learning. Back then, you just call that farm living, right?
Figure it
So,
out.
so there's one big inflection point that I've heard about when it comes to willpower excavation, right?
Yep.
Was it your senior year
Senior
of
in
high
high
school?
school, yep.
Right, talk to us through this big turning point for the business.
So it was just roll as far as cash flow, bigger jobs, and then it was nights and weekends and hiring my buddies at school and
You're employing your friends.
Oh, yeah. Within 6 months, I had employees. And within 8 months, I had a full-time employee. His name is Tyler, and ran into him on a job site. And, I mean, this guy's 30 years old and had some experience. Like, ran into him on a job site. He's working for a landscaper, and he asked me for a job. I was like, let's do it. And so I would go to school during the day and leave him a list and be texting with him, like, you need to do X, Y, Z in this
Shut
priority
up.
list.
Within 6 months. So you're like a sophomore or junior.
Yeah.
And you have a full-time employee,
Yep.
and you're going to Hamilton Heights High School.
And I was probably, I mean, he's making good money. I was probably paying him $28 an hour.
Dude, you realize that's crazy in the best way possible. Like, I love crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was a good time. And then I would join him at 3-4 o'clock as soon as I could get out of school, and we'd work. I mean, he'd work with me until the evenings, and he'd go home, and I'd work all night, and then set him up for success in the morning.
Did it
and with the list.
ever get hard to be like, why the hell am I going to school?
Yeah, I always enjoyed school and enjoyed learning, and I was always pretty good at academics. And so, like, I would find ways to go faster. This was like in the early days of online school. And I figured out, like, I need to knock out X, Y, and Z for my college credits. And so, like, I did my foreign language credit all as American Sign Language online. because I could do it so rapidly and so quickly rather
American
than sitting.
Sign Language.
Oh yeah,
online.
ASL baby.
But you were planning on going to college.
Oh yeah, my whole life I'd planned to. I mean, I'd look forward. All my older siblings went to college. My parents were both Boilermakers. Like I really look forward to that, and I knew I'd have fun and be around great people. And so I'd always planned. I mean, I'd always set myself up financially. I was saving for college, and academically, I was well prepared for college. I even had scholarships and stuff already lined up going into junior and senior year.
And then there's this inflection point, your
Right.
senior year.
Right. So
So
my
you're
senior
planning
year,
on going
I'm
to
really,
college.
really like caught in this decision. I'd gotten far enough ahead academically where my junior or my first half of senior year, I was far enough ahead on courses where I did work programs. So I'd go to school for 3 periods in the morning. And I'd leave at 11 o'clock. But it was tricky because I went and worked for my own business. Got a bigger taste of like how much I could punch through and how quick we could go.
Well, how did you even get, because like, did they look at you funny? Like, you can't go work for yourself.
Yeah, a little bit. Awesome school corporation, awesome teachers. Like it was the kind of school that there's teachers praying for you quietly through the walls and stuff. And so, I mean, I was showing up to school with work trucks and bulldozers. And like I've got pictures of semi trucks and bulldozers in the school parking lot because I had to be at school at 7:15 and I'd leave with them. And so the school knew I was pretty legitimate in that aspect. Like I wasn't hiding
Like,
anything.
did the principal ever look at you like, what? Will, what the heck are you doing?
Yeah. The principal, Mr. Mason, was an awesome guy. The first day at Hamilton Heights High School, I'd made a couple friends and we walked in. We had left our trucks out in the parking lot and somebody said it was about to rain. And so some guy went out there, a guy named Brent went out there to start our trucks or roll our windows up on our trucks. And I liked old classic trucks. And so he went to roll the windows up on my truck and it's crank windows, but he doesn't know that. And he thinks you always got to turn the key on to roll up electric windows. So he accidentally starts my truck, but it's in gear, it's in manual. So my truck takes off, first day at Hamilton Heights, takes off across the parking lot, driving itself because he accidentally started it in first gear and drove through the fence and out onto the track field. And so we all run out there and the maintenance guy comes around. I was like, oh man, you guys really screwed up. And then the principal comes around and I was like, give me the day, like give me tonight, look at it tomorrow, and then let's talk about it. And so the principal's like, all right. And so after school, I made that guy who drove my truck through the fence go with me, and we went and fetched a welder from the farm and a torch, and we came back and we cut and bit and welded the fence back together that night at Hamilton Heights. And so like from there forward, the principal and I were good. Like he was an awesome guy and
That is so sick. Okay, dude, this is like a movie. Like, do you ever stop and think that? They're like, man, what you've been doing is just awesome and it's inspiring and it pumps me up, dude. Like, first day of high school, you're convincing the principal to like, don't get me in trouble. Don't give me an invoice or whatever.
Give me time,
I'll fix this thing. And you fix it.
Yeah.
JC Hart Company is your answer to navigating the apartment rental journey. With almost 50 years of creating enjoyable living experiences in Indiana, you'll be sure to find your new home sweet home. You're going to find 30 communities in the best areas Indiana has to offer. Hamilton County, downtown Indy, Bloomington, just to name a few, along with 5 brand new luxury communities. Visit homeisjchart.com/Nate to find their list of locations and reach out to one of their many dedicated leasing agents for a personalized tour. Tell them Nate sent you and they're going to take good care of you. Looking for a career in property management? You'll also find a list of open positions on their website along with all the reasons why JC Hart is named one of Indiana's best places to work. Want a sneak peek into life as a JC Hart resident or associate? Be sure to check them out on Instagram at homeisjchart or visit homeisjchart.com/Nate. One more time, home is JC Hart. Man, so senior year,
Yep.
they're like, they know you're legit and you're like, yeah, you can go work for yourself.
Work program far enough along. And like at some point that year, I realized like, hey, this is such a good opportunity and this is such a blessing. Like I really felt like I was on my path and I knew it. And so I was like, this whole idea of college and this whole societal pressure and societal expectation of college, like, I don't care. Like, I think I feel confident that this is my path and this is a great opportunity.
And how are you getting new business at the time?
Cold calling still. I mean, just in relationships is ultimately what it was. Like, do good work for this guy and then ask him about, hey, what about this other builder developer? Could you make an introduction for me?
Can you give me a rough estimate? Like, you have employees, you're working senior year of high school. Like, what kind of revenue is Willpower Construction doing then?
My senior year, I wrapped out that year at $1.4 million.
Will. You're like, yo,
It was a blast.
Mr. Principal, not only will I fix this fence, I'm going to be the title sponsor of the football field. What do you think about, like, that's so sick.
My junior year, we made $130,000. That was the first year running the business.
So you went from 130 to 1.4?
Yep.
What was the difference? I mean, to 10X, anything is crazy. What was the difference there?
Yeah, started buying equipment, started rolling into bigger and bigger jobs. My senior year, I was doing the work program, so I didn't have to go. And I graduated a semester early, and so I didn't have to be at school. And so hiring rapidly, building rapidly.
What was like the first big break? Like the first one where you're like, how the heck did we get this job?
There's an awesome company called JRF Construction in Westfield, Indiana. Now they're actually based out of Cicero. But anyway, I cold called on them, and we had started with them by, hey, any opportunity I would love to help you guys out on. So the first call I got from them, I was probably a junior still in high school, and it was a job that another site contractor had faltered and was halfway through, and it was a mess. And so I came in and looked at it with them and met with their owner. And like, I'd been cold calling and asking these guys to come meet them for 6 months. And finally they called me. And they're like, can you meet us on this problem? And I went out there and I was like, oh yeah, I can fix it. Yep. Consider it done, this, that, blah, blah, blah. And I did have solutions. And so then it was like, all right, fix it. And they were frustrated. They'd been on this job site for months fighting against this problem. And it was like, I didn't leave that job site for the next 4 days. And like 4 days later, through the weekend and through the next day, it was done. It was fixed. And I was like back on track.
And I think people are like saying, oh yeah, he just worked a lot of hours.
It's not hyperbole.
Like you did not leave the job
Sleep in
site.
the truck every third day, like whatever you have to, but we're going to stay until it's fixed.
Like, were your parents like calling you like, where the heck are you?
My poor mother. She would occasionally call me at 11 or 12 o'clock at night, and she wouldn't say like, you have to be home. It's like, be careful. Don't fall asleep driving, make it to school in the morning. It's like, looking back on it, the amount of freedom my parents gave me to do that is insane.
But it's earned freedom, right?
Oh,
and it's like you have to have a track record of not screwing off.
Yep.
And like being dedicated to this thing, and then you start to earn that. Like, I don't know if that's totally a taught thing or like you're just, I mean, I think you're just built different, which is so sick, dude. That's incredible. Like, I don't know anyone. I've never known anyone who knew anyone that made $1 million as an 18-year-old.
17, 18, I mean, right there. It was a blast. And so even the cash flow side, like the hardest thing I would say has been the cash flow and like trying to control growth amidst a wonderful opportunity. And so a lot of it was walking this line of vulnerability that like, I can't work for bad people. Like, I got to get paid. Like, I'm too young. I'm too vulnerable. I don't have the financials.
Do people ever try to take advantage of you?
Yeah, looking back on it, there was overwork, underpaid, but like that was my education. And so I don't hold that against those people. They're business guys making a business transaction in a lot of cases.
And you need to get like some credibility under your...
Oh, for sure.
Like now you can come in and be like, we do good work. Like,
yeah, we got track record.
I got a decade of experience. Can I ask how old you are?
23.
He's 23 with a decade of experience in excavation. And they're like, man, that math isn't... He's like, no, it maths.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and you account for overtime, it's more like 20 years, but...
Right? Like, if you're rolling 16-hour days, like, you're getting double the experience in half the time.
Yeah.
Man, so, like, and eventually you get to come in and be, like, the gold standard. But early on, it's like...
Yeah.
And I love that mindset, too. You're like, yeah, they probably took advantage of me. I mean, I show up as a 16-year-old kid on the job, and it's like, I'll do anything.
It was just saying yes and figuring it out. So you asked me about my big breaking point. That company JRF, like I fixed that job, and then that opened the doors of opportunity. Like, well, do you want to bid this job, and how about this one and that one? And then I had some mentors step in and quickly taught me.
How'd you find these mentors?
They were clients, or they were project managers for clients, or they were estimators for clients, and I gave them enough vulnerability to see is like, I can solve that problem. I can do it really well. Can you help me figure out what my bid should be or what my estimate should be? They would help me on some of the technical skills, and so I was reading every book, everything I could find. Like, I was reading anything and everything I could about heavy civil estimating and job cost controls and purchasing. And like, it just went from residential time and materials, like a couple $1,000s at a time, to all of a sudden, like, I'm bidding on $100,000 job sites, $150,000 job sites.
What was the first one you got? Six figure deal.
Take 5 oil change on Michigan Road, right up the road here. And then the next one was probably a Valvoline oil change on 96th Street over by Fisher's.
And what'd you bid that?
Probably 200,000, 220,000, if I remember
And
right.
and that's just to like move, not to say
Yeah.
just move dirt, but move some dirt.
Yeah, move dirt and put all the underground utilities. And for Valvolines, you dig the basements and you put in dewatering well structures and stuff too. But here's how this works, and like in our world is basically they put out the bid documents, plans, and it says, okay, everybody who wants to bid, tell us the number you can build it for. And like that's the number. So you got to figure it out, and then you put that number in. There's no going back on it. Like they accept your bid, and it's like I told them I could build it for 220,000. Like, all right, let's see it. And then you got to go build this thing for 220,000. And there's not opportunity to say, whoopsie, I forgot this, or oh, I didn't think about that, or I missed this. And so I pretty quickly started developing, it started as Excel spreadsheets, and I just obsessed. Like a guy gave me some estimating books that his dad had. I'm talking incredible amounts of data on productions and efficiencies and install rates and man hours per lineal foot, and like very complex equations when you get into it, because I got to look at the blueprints of stuff that some of the stuff I'd never built before is like, what's it take to put it in the ground, the materials, equipment, labor, what's your overhead burn rate, what's your production values, and so started as Excel spreadsheets, and I pretty quickly like figured out a good template or a good equation that got me started down the right path to bid and win these jobs. And then I started winning a bunch of them. And before I knew it, I was building a Sherwin-Williams in Bloomington and building a couple of restaurants and gas stations in Indianapolis and building some more in Muncie in school as a 17 or 18-year-old. And so I was skipping as much school as I could and just...
Did the school ever come to you and say, hey, Will, you got to show up?
My parents kind of, I think, walked that line where it's like, you got to make it to school and you got to not overstep and miss too many days. So
yeah.
I don't know what my attendance was my senior year. The day that I was supposed to graduate and walk no, I was working. Like I didn't go to my graduation I never picked up my diploma. Like it was head down.
Do you look back? 23, that's 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Do you look back and
Zero regret.
no regret?
Nope.
All right, there you go.
Like I didn't spend any time hanging out. And like that's some of the sacrifices of entrepreneurship. I spent no time hanging out socially. I didn't go out to eat with friends or go to parties or do any of that. It was 7 to whatever time at school, and then it was work. And that's all it was.
And you're getting these big jobs.
Yep.
You're
rolling.
Everyone else
hiring
is
all the high school buddies, hiring some more full-time guys. This is like, I hate to tell this story. If you're a client currently, don't listen to the first part of this podcast because it's probably is going to scare them. But like my favorite employees were the ones who didn't have driver's license yet because they were just stuck with me until I took them home. It's like I had 15-year-olds from high school, younger classmates, and they would leave school with me in a work truck. And like we'd work all weekend. I'd have their moms call me. Wade Kinnaman's one of them, where Wade's mom would call me at like midnight on a Saturday and be like, "Where is my son at? Like I haven't seen him in a day and a half." It's like, well, he's running a bulldozer, he's running a haul truck. I'll bring him home in time for church. And like I had a lot of people get mad at me because these guys would just be with me until I took them home, and we were having a blast.
And did they ever like complain or they having a good time?
For sure. No. I was way overworking people and burning people out, and I ruined some friendships of some high school guys and some peers and stuff because they didn't want to work like that.
That is when you're the owner, you can see it. I don't know if I'm as extreme. Like I love what you got going on there, but it's like I can work till 11, 12 p.m. at night and not have a problem.
Right.
Like it's fun to me. Like building something is fun, and seeing the product where you get to the other side and you're like, man, that's a good video, or that's good. Like for you, I'm assuming it's the same thing. Like to get to the other side and like have another project done under your belt, it's a great feeling.
Yep.
But then when you're paying them 15, 20, 25, even like you're paying them really well an hour even, it's still like, man, like what's this? Like if you're not the owner, I can see how they'd be like, what's this all for?
Right.
So you're rolling with that. You work through graduation day. I love it. It's like all your friends are reading Lord of the Flies, and you're reading estimator books
Construction
from
Civil Estimator production data book from 2003. Like I found some government reports of like how fast they could dig trenches in the war field. I was like, awesome. Like their same equation in their production data of how fast they can dig trenches in a war zone is directly applicable to how fast I can dig trenches to put utilities in the ground. I was enrolling classmates to help build these Excel spreadsheets and calculators for aggregate calculators and pipeline runs and production efficiencies and hours based on conditions and variables, and just building these insane. I started Dayton Journey right about that time, And I was emailing her Purdue business. She was a little older than me. Her Purdue business professors as her to ask these theoretical business strategy and like limits of Excel.
Wait, how'd
questions.
you meet Journey?
We grew up the same farm town. She was county fair queen, so you always got to have a crush on
Oh, absolutely. And then she goes to Purdue, and you're like, in between jobs, you're like hitting her up on Instagram or whatever.
Nah,
like,
I'll set the story straight.
Okay.
She reached out to me first. So,
whoa.
Yep. No, this was, I was probably just out of senior year of high school and doing the dirt business thing. And so we started chatting.
Doing the dirt. You got to make, so then wait, was this like a point of contention? Not contention, but like, now you got a reason to take a break from something. How's that work?
No, I didn't. Poor girl. She would like or started off like the first time she ever came on a date, her friends and her came out to a job site. And it was like, I'm shoveling and talking to her while I'm shoveling and running the excavator. Yeah, it was, she would have to come to a job site because I would not leave. And so like I'd be in Muncie at a job site and she would stop and pick up, text her at house or pick up food and come out and sit in the excavator with me or sit in the bulldozer with me or sit in the work truck.
Brother, I mean, she deserves like a gold star for that one. Holy smokes.
Yeah.
So there, everyone else goes to college.
Yep.
You just keep working.
Head down.
Head down. You do 7 figures senior year. And then what are these big inflection points of growth along the journey, right? So you 10X from junior to senior.
Yeah, 2020 was my senior year in high school, or what should have been my senior year, did 1.4 million. The next year I did 6.5 million. So
how many employees are you? You're 19
boy,
years
I
old.
probably had 12 or 15.
You're getting these big commercial jobs.
Yeah, and it was just those same relationships, those same cold calls, like Mark Graddison in particular. Like I was doing custom homes, but I figured out like Mark's got this really large scale development company in the background. So I was like, Mark, I would love an opportunity to solve problems there for you. And so I would
to solve problems, whatever the problem is, we'll figure it out.
Yep. And so we started by doing punch lists behind other contractors and finishing and cleaning up and just, I want to be the go-to problem solve guy. You got an issue, call me, we'll come fix it. And they were frustrated with some large contractors who had done all the meat and gravy and potatoes of a job site, and then that last 1% of like the little piddly stuff that seems annoying to a contractor, but is so crucial to a homeowner or the final use product, buyer.
How do you instill the same passion that you have into your employees?
For me, it's been about transparency and a common goal and a common core purpose, and just being real about like, hey, what we're doing is building something bigger than any one of us. So our core purpose is building American infrastructure to build American dreams. Dumb luck, like early on, I just knew is like, if people are going to trust me to come work for me, I better walk the talk and just show them everything and be transparent. So since the inception of Willpower Excavation, I've shown all of our financials every quarter to every employee and like sit everybody down, do a quarterly meeting, what we're doing well, what we're doing bad, how we're doing on safety. And then here's all the financials, like full P&L, full balance sheet, what our CapEx expenditures have been, what's our biggest risks, how's our cash flow, what's the accounts receivable like. I mean, these are blue collar guys. And so we all had a rapid education together on building this business and how it worked. And so I think that early on instilled like the right guys and gals latched onto that and knew that like, hey, we're really doing something here. And that's where the care came in.
Man, how many employees are you up to now?
About 80.
80 employees.
We're pushing to do about 30 million this year.
Is that wild to say? Or did you expect this?
I think we're moving and growing so fast that like driving for more, we need to pause a little more and say, what a blessing and what an opportunity that our clients have helped us get here and our people have helped us get
here. You're clearly ambitious, right? And you want to build American infrastructure to build American dreams. Yeah. That's powerful.
Yep.
And I believe that you are walking the talk or walking the walk and talking. You talk the talk, but you do also walk the walk. We were talking about it before. It's like you have your helicopter pilot's license and you'll fly around jobs in Indiana and hover over it and like see your equipment and see your employees working on there's got to be a moment of just insane gratitude. Like God is great there, man.
Yeah.
Holy.
Like that core purpose has developed. Starting off, like I probably would have gave you a dumb answer of like, oh, the best part of this business is the jobs or the equipment or the X, Y, or Z. And it's like it quickly became clear it's the impact we get to have on people. Like that's the people in our organization and it's clients and it's vendors and it's community as well. But the amount of guys and gals that we've brought into this business, fresh into the business or the industry or into our company, It's like we've had a lot of guys and gals come in and not have a developed skill, not know what they want to do with their life, not on a path. And then we've put them around great people and taught them something and made them, take them from a $20 an hour employee into a $40 and $50 an hour and making great money and great benefits and like putting them around great people. And all of a sudden it's like, here's a guy that delivered pizzas 5 years ago or 3 years ago. And now he's a pipe foreman and he's doing awesome work and he's making $100,000 a year and he's buying a house and he's found a great girl and starting to have kids. Like, we're empowering him to live his version of the American dream. Like, by far the most rewarding thing we can do is that impact on people. It's amazing. There is so many moments where despite the chaos, despite the busyness, like I can always feel that hand of blessing and gratitude for the opportunities. And like I deal with the stress and I deal with the pressure because I know that it could all go away today. And I really think that I would be just fine because I know that like this, none of this is mine. It's all his, and it's simply passing through. And all we can do is be stewards of it. And so like it's a peace within myself where I know that I've been blessed to learn so much and be around so many great people. An outside thing happens and everything crumbles tomorrow. We have another 2008 or whatever happens. It's like, I don't stay up at night worrying about that because I know that my trust is elsewhere and that we can rebuild and we can do this with good people and the knowledge we've been blessed to learn and the path we've been on. So,
all right. When you're coming up, like you're 23 now, how much of it is you have to have blinders on, perseverance, like what the right thing to do is, and how much of it is I gotta get around the best people and take advice from people who've been doing this for 30 years?
First few years were all blinders and head down. Probably the first 2 or 3 years certainly had to surround myself with the right people, and iron sharpens iron. So clients would step in and become mentors to me and became close friends. And
who was like one of the early people that just made an outsized impact in your life?
Mark Graddison, Tim Barr, and Jonas Ludowski were three guys that I did a lot of business for early on. They each called me, Mark and Tim called me and applauded me. Like they had a moment with me. It was almost like an intervention where it's like, we love what you're doing. You've got to find a sustainable pace. Like, don't give yourself a stroke by the time you're 25. Like, go find a hobby and get yourself more involved in the business community and work on leadership development, personal development, as hard as you're working on a bulldozer or an excavator. And I think that was a pivotal moment for me, whereas I knew they were right, but somebody had to tell me that. For me, I went and got involved in Entrepreneurial organization and tried to just start mixing myself into more of the business owner community and the business community.
And how did you end up in YPO?
Yeah, so I was in EO, which is Entrepreneurial Organization. A lot of the same thing about YPO, but I was in that for a few years and then joined YPO as well.
Quick pause to tell you about one of my new favorite spots in Indianapolis, Back 9 Golf. If you haven't been yet, you're missing out. This is the perfect way to get your swings in no matter what the weather's like outside. This place isn't your average golf range. It's a full-blown experience. Locally owned, locally operated, these guys are all about bringing the community together for a good time. They've got climate-controlled bays, great food, live music, and a bar that keeps the drinks flowing. And if you're looking for a place to host an event, birthday, corporate outing, bachelor party, Back 9 is the spot. They know how to throw down and make sure your crew has an unforgettable time. So next time you're looking for a night out that's more than just another bar, head to Back 9. Swing some clubs, grab some drinks, and support a business that's keeping it local. Check them out at back9golf.com or just pull up and see what all the hype's about. Tell them you heard about it on Get In. I don't know if that's super common or not. Like, I don't know, a lot of blue collar people don't strike me as like, I want to go join EO.
Right.
Like, what made you want to go do that?
An aspiration to be around people a whole lot smarter than me and a knowledge that iron sharpens iron is all it was. And so started pulling myself away to carve out time for those events. And if you don't know, like EO, you have to make $1 million or more a year revenue, and you have to be the majority owner or founder of the business. Like, it's a very legitimate group of people to look up to.
Like, that's already one really, really insane. Like, you're making $1 million a year and you own a business.
Yep.
Like, that's a milestone. Then YPO is 10 million, right? 15 million and under a certain age, right?
Under 50.
To get in, and then I think you can be old. You graduate, but if you have to get older, right? Yep. So it's like you're getting invited into YPO.
So when I started in EO, like I tried to hide my age. I wasn't 21. I hate to like put this out on the internet, but I had a fake ID from one of my employees and a friend who we pretty much looked alike. So I was going to these EO events with my different ID and like trying to make sure nobody knew that I was only 19 years old or 20 years old at the time,
and you're just because you're building a business, man, and you're trying to get in into the rooms with the smartest people.
Yep.
Right, and like that's one thing where I think early on, right, you got to have your blinders because you got to take nothing, turn it into something.
Yep.
But then it's the age old adage of what got you here won't get you there.
Exactly.
Right, and so like, then I think the entrepreneur's pride sometimes can get in the way of like you don't know what you don't know.
I do this. I do it the best. Like
I'm Steve Jobs, and like what I say is the almighty hand, right? And it's like this is how it needs to go. And it's like I think the best entrepreneurs, like and this is how I try to live my life, is I want to be the dumbest person in all these rooms.
Oh yeah.
Like I'm sitting here right now in the studio, like, dude, I'm so glad that I'm the dumbest person in here because I'm learning so much,
Don't let
dude.
Nate lie to you.
Dude, like, and it's always about certain things, right? So everyone has their everyone has their area of expertise or whatever. But the more time you can spend being a novice at something and learning something new, man, like that's what I love about this. It's like in 1 week we go from 23-year-old building this crazy cool business that's like growing like a weed, and like yesterday I had a rookie IndyCar driver on, and it's like I'm learning like about the ranks of driving. It's just crazy, man. It's like
some of your recent podcasts, like Chase Flashman, he's in YPO with me, and like I had never heard his business story. I mean, even Scotty's Brewhouse, like some of the other more recent ones you've done have been amazing.
People are gonna love this one. I can't wait to share this. Like I want to go edit it right now because it's such an amazing story, and I think that a lot of people hear these and are like, "That could never be me."
Right.
And it's like, well, if you do what everyone else does, you're gonna get what everyone else gets.
Yeah.
And I know that parents are really, really like the safe route. Like I went to college, and it's like, do I use that much of what I learned, like the actual books and no, I'm not using ethos, pathos, and logos for my communication degree. Like, but do I communicate all the time? And have I built a business around this? Like, yes. And I think that parents maybe don't encourage entrepreneurship enough not because they don't want their kid to go be special, but because they don't want them to fail.
I'm now to where people ask me for advice, and I struggle to give advice because everybody's on such a different path and such different variables. And in general, like I don't give out the blanket advice to go be an entrepreneur. It is a lot of sacrifices. It's a ton of risk, and like it can be a very stressful and a very pressured life. And there's a lot of people that I don't want to say aren't built for that, but don't have the right mentality around it.
From my perspective, what I see and like what I'm feeling, it's a lot of compartmentalizing. Where it's like, okay, right now I need to have my tax hat on and learn. Like I got to be as big of an expert right now about taxes as I can. And the next is like building culture and recruiting employees and getting talent. And then by the way, you got to know how to edit videos, and you got to know how to push dirt and like win these bids and sell your ass off. Like But it's like when you get out of the tax or when you get out of the bulldozer, you gotta have to like leave that there for a second and go put on your HR hat or your Excel spreadsheet hat. And it's fun. If you're a problem solving individual, it's really fun. But if you're one that like likes to turn stuff off and like I just want to leave work there, probably not the life for you, man.
Yeah. I have asked people before is like, I cannot wrap my mind around what people do with their time. And I don't want to come off in the wrong way here of like, oh, people are lazy. But it is shocking to me. Like we moved into a new office at Keystone and 465. And I always thought 9 to 5 was kind of a joke. It's like, no, there's a lot of people that work 9 to 4. And we're in an office building. Every single day, willpower trucks are the first ones there. And every single day, they're the last ones to leave. And it's like there's hundreds of businesses through this business park. I'm like, what do you guys do with your time?
What do you say to the people that might look at you and say like, well, life's about more than work? And
very true.
And
work-life balance is a thing. Not for me yet.
I think that it's something that, maybe you have kids and you start to get a little bit older, but it's like, you got to make hay while the sun shines, right? Like you're 23, you can really set yourself apart from your peers, and you already have, right? Like I'm 27, no kids, not married yet. Like, I feel like this is a time where I can go set myself apart and go like build something special. Because one day there will be a time where
certainly
you see that, working a bulldozer for 16 hours, like I'd rather go watch my kid's t-ball game or whatever. Or go, spend time there.
The other thing that's different is like, it's not work. And it's Sonny Beck has got a quote in the Beck side where it's like, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life, or some iteration of that. It's true. And don't get me wrong, there's bad days and there's work where it's trudging and it's miserable and it's just no fun. But in general, again, I know that I'm on my path, and I was made for this. Like, I'm so alive for this. I couldn't imagine not working 16 hours thinking about the excavating business, or 20 hours, or all the other impact that we have.
And this is from a guy who literally digs ditches for a living. Like, you know, they always say like, you could be digging ditches, and he's like, oh, give me the ditches. I was actually born to dig ditches. Man, this gets me fired up. It's incredible, dude.
And again, like, work-life balance, I think is something that we've overcorrected as a society. If you can be passionate about your work, it's like, what's wrong with working 6 or 7 days a week? What's wrong with making this much of an impact? What's wrong with being this hungry for it? And sometimes I think we sell ourselves short of, like, okay, 40-hour week, 50-hour week, then what? Sit around and watch Netflix? Like, sit around and watch TV? Scroll TikToks? Like, if you're going to do that, you might as well be doing something productive and fulfilling and sustaining. And so I think this whole work-life balance debate in our culture right now is a little misconstrued. Family, events, those kind of things, like, I get that. A lot of us are using it as an excuse to be kickback lifestyle, things that aren't fulfilling their fullest destiny.
And it's like, if it is true that you were put on the earth, you're here to make a huge impact and do something special, like you have a purpose, then you're actually doing yourself a huge disservice by not
cutting yourself short.
You're cutting yourself short.
Yep.
And I do see the other side where not everyone's wired that way.
Yeah. And what I was doing, like, back then is not what I'm doing today. Again, what gets you here isn't what gets you there. And it's like, that was unsustainable, working 40 and 50-hour days and contiguous. And it's like, don't get me wrong, I get 6 hours of sleep a night, 7 hours of sleep a night. Like, there's healthy habits. And so don't misconstrue what I'm saying. But in general, it's like, man, if you can find something you love, like I have, and a lot of our people have, it's amazing.
Was there ever a time where you wanted to give up?
No, not a second.
Like, there's times where it's hard, but you never there's never been the moment where you're just like, why the heck am I even doing this for?
Not a single moment in my mind. Like, and we've been backed in the corner, struggling with cash flow, struggling with problems, struggling. And I've never been more alive. There's been so many moments where no matter how hard the day is, no matter how vicious of problems I'm up against, it's like I can still pull myself out of the day-to-day and put myself in another light and another perspective where it's like, man, how awesome that I've got these problems. And there's a Stoic, I think it was Marcus Aurelius, had said, I pray not for lighter burdens, I pray for broader shoulders.
Oh,
and it's like,
dude,
man, bring the pain, I'll laugh in the face of it. Bring the problems, I'll smile. Bring the stuff nobody else can solve, and I love it.
Dude, my like passion project, right, or my like free time thing, I coach wrestling at Chittard.
Yeah.
So like for 2 hours a day during the winter, you can't call me, text me, page me. Like, I'm molding young minds, what we say. And I always tell them, it's like, don't pray for an easy opponent. Pray for the strength to beat the good ones. Right? Like, pray for the, like, if you're over there, like, I hope my life is super easy. Like, you're not going to have, when you're 90 years old, what stories are you going to tell? Yeah, like, I had a cupcake life and cupcake opponents and nope. But it's like, man, we were backed in the corner and I figured out this way to get us out of this and make payroll and land this new project, and it was crazy.
And it's so simple. It's like, if I'm going to ask God for wisdom, He's going to have to give me hard things to learn and fail at to build that wisdom. It's like, it's so easy and so simple and so applicable. And so one lesson that I write down in my journal is like, buy your education. People would tease me about not going to college, and I'd be like, oh, I paid for my Harvard education 10 times over a year. And it's like, I'm going down through education and I'm paying for it, just not in the typical way.
Do you feel like people look down on you for that you didn't go to school?
Some people do, but that's of any society and in any demographic. There's dummies out there. And so, like, but the people who know, and they don't look down on me, and they don't hold my age against me, and they don't X, Y, and Z. But generally, like, society, I do a little bit of work now advocating to high schoolers and middle schoolers of like, you don't have to go down this societal pressure path. College is a great thing. Our society has overcorrected that pendulum, and like we're pushing too many kids to go down this college path. Is all I advocate for.
And I say, like, college was worth it for me because I learned a lot about life and I made really, really good connections.
Yep.
And you needed this sticky point to get those connections, right? So now when I reach out to someone from DePaul or I have fraternity brothers or this, that, like it was really good for that. Like, did I learn how to build a media company focused on the state of Indiana? Like, not that much about the X's and O's. That's all like a lot of self-taught stuff. But the mentors and the people, like having that connection point of college helps there.
Yep.
There are kids that go there and don't get any value out of it because the basic structure is like to send you through there, go 4 years, go get a job. Like you could have done that somewhere else probably.
So here's the stigma around it is my problem with it is parents and teachers and people within the business community putting a stigma around the kids that don't go to college. And like a very real life example is a good friend of mine graduated high school, top of the class, went to a great college, became a civil engineer. He interned with us for a couple summers and just incredibly smart, gifted individual. He went through 4 years of college, became a civil engineer. Like he came back at the end of college, a little bit of student debt probably, or most do, and he took a couple job offers, great job offers, and like his first year out of college, civil engineer, making great money. You know, high 60s, mid 60,000s, close to the low 70s. It's like that's a wonderful path he's on. We need more civil engineers. But alternatively, like I've got other guys that graduated in the same high school class with him that came onto our team and learned skills and learned paths, and they quickly climbed the ranks and became a pipe foreman, making an $85,000 a year salary. And like some of them, in the same 4 years that guy went to college to be a civil engineer, the same guy climbed to be a level 2 pipe foreman in our organization, and they're making $100,000, $105,000, $110,000 a year.
And probably have, instead of $100K in debt, have $100K in the bank.
Oh yeah, and buying houses already and having great equity built into them, and like on an awesome path and set themselves up super well. And it's not just my company; like they've built that skill. There's a lot of great competitors I have that would pay them the same money to go work there too. So it's not just like a unicorn. No, they've learned something that makes them so valuable in the marketplace. That was this year that I saw that example play out.
The argument that other people have is, well, I don't want to go to college because I'm going to be like a Twitch streamer or whatever. And it's like, I hope it works. But a lot of times, like the argument is like, I don't want to go to college because that's what people want me to do. So I'm going to deliver pizzas at Domino's. And it's like, okay, well, if you're, you know, like you have to still find your education. You have to have this curiosity to like go out and make something of yourself.
Yep.
And a lot of times college does give you the guardrails of like, because you have 4 more years of taking guided steps towards something.
Right.
There's like a lot of people that graduate high school, and if they don't have a path, career development, like milestones.
Easy to go down the wrong road.
Yeah.
If they don't have a path, a constructive path.
And all you're thinking is like, well, now I just have to work for the next 30 years. Cool, better get started on that. And I think that it is interesting. You graduate college, and there's not a lot more milestones. Like career, like it's like a lot of times you think it's like, okay, graduate middle school, graduate elementary, middle school, high school, college. For me, I did the OR fellowship program, so 2 more years. And then after I finished OR, it was like, now I have forever.
Yeah.
What is that? Like, where's my, like, okay, I'll turn 30 or whatever, but like, I don't know. I just find that interesting, man. This has been an incredible episode. I have some fun questions here at the end if you want to rip into them. But I just want to say, like, it's inspiring.
Yeah.
And I know, like, I appreciate how humble you are, but I also really, really appreciate you coming on and telling your story. Like, I think if in the right ears, that hits the right high school kid or whatever it might be, like, it's gonna make a huge impact.
Yeah.
Like an outsized impact in their life of I can go build this thing, but also like the hard work that it takes to get there. I worked 40 hours consecutively and are like, he's bullshit. It's like, no. I did not leave this job site until we got the problem fixed.
Yep.
And that's what it takes if you want to be a true outlier, if you want to build something truly special. And I'm fired up coming out of this one, man.
I do want to take just a second to recap where we are today, in case any clients or future clients, potential clients are listening and vendors and stuff. And so, like there is a transition where a lot of our stories today was the piracy of getting started and the scrappy, do whatever you can to get out of the corners in entrepreneurship. And so we've grown into an organization so much bigger than just me and this story of how I got it off the ground. And so like today, I'm the CEO and I have hired everybody I can way smarter than me and way better than me and way more experienced than me. And so like today we are very much the well-refined, distilled Navy built with process and procedure and track record and roadmap. All I would say is like it's constant growth. And so today there's an entire organization of people much larger, much better, much bigger than me. That is Willpower Excavation. That is fulfilling that core purpose and doing those things in the community.
And what's like the job size or scope, or what things are you building these days?
We're heavy earthwork and utility infrastructure. So we work a lot in the private sector, building big box logistic, industrial, economic development communities and business parks and those kind of things. And then we build entire subdivisions, infrastructure packages. We put in all the water and sewer and underground and move all the earthwork. And then growing in the public market. We just finished a National Guard base for the Department of Defense. We're building an entire new school campus for Westfield right now.
I saw that.
Yeah, it's been an amazing project. We do a lot of lift stations, deep sewer interceptors, working with municipalities. We're starting to work directly with the state and working on American infrastructure, bridges, roads. I mean,
building American infrastructure
to build American dreams.
To build American dreams.
Yeah.
Holy smokes, dude. First question, how hard was it to get like certified to work for the DoD?
Not that hard. I know. Don't use that against me, but like every problem is just problems to solve. It's just like it's an equation of solutions. And so it wasn't that hard, and it was just, hey, we had to meet this financials criteria and this EMR spec and safety spec and this background checks and X and Y and Z. It's like, yes, that's a complex problem to have an EMR below. An EMR is a safety factor. It's a complex problem, but it's not. You just do the right things over time with good people. And so, like, I would say not hard. But
there you go. Right. It turns out things are pretty simple when you boil them down that way. What piece of machinery have you bought that is like you just like geek out on?
We've got a monster excavator. It's a PC 750 that we use for setting bridge box culverts or really deep sewer infrastructure, or mass loading and moving 15,000 cubic yards of dirt in a day. But what you need to know is like, it is a machine bigger than this building. No offense against your building, it's very nice. And it's really cool. Like we got to split it up into 4 pieces to take it down the road and move it to the next job site. But
the image, it just looks like just an excavator, but like size wise, it's that big.
Yeah, like your head, if you stand next to that machine, the top of the tracks is about where the top of your head is.
Holy.
Yeah, it's just cool machines, and even cooler is the stuff we get to do with them. Like it's horsepower and iron and weight, and it's like it's nothing for us to throw 50,000 pounds, 100,000 pounds around with 800 horsepower and just cool stuff. That
is cool stuff.
Yeah, we're just little boys with big toys.
It's like, dude, you get toys. Yeah, put that on the t-shirt. Yeah. It's like there's a whole you could just like take your phone out and become TikTok famous in like 2 days. Like for my male audience, like this is what moving
for the boys.
For the boys. Okay, well, this next question is our Younger Years segment. It's brought to you by our friends at Orr Fellowship. They're a great organization here in Indiana, helping develop young business leaders across the state. If I'm not mistaken, I think you guys are part of the Orr Fellowship program.
Yep, we're getting involved and trying to do some hiring and partnership with the Orr Fellowship.
Heck yeah. Well, the question is, Will, what advice would you give to your 22-year-old self? So last year, what advice would you Let's go back and say, what advice would you give to your 16-year-old self?
Yeah. Work incredibly hard, no matter, what others say or what others think. Like, work incredibly hard no matter what.
There you go.
David Goggins says is, if you want to push to your fullest potential, like people will think that you are insane in a bad way. It's like people will think that you are crazy for working that much or caring that much or risking that much or like whatever that is. And so just don't live in mediocrity. Push to your fullest.
And no matter what that is, right? Whether it's your you could be training for a race, you could be building a business, being a dad, whatever it might be.
Yeah. Apply to your fullest extent that God made you for.
Yeah. I agree. And usually when you're doing something unique and different, people are going to look at you a little funny and then they'll be like, oh yeah. And then they wonder how you got there. And it's like, well, hard work is a cure to most things. Yeah. If you want to
work incredibly hard, do the right things for good people, and then it's just a factor of time. So
yeah. Wow, man. I love it. All right. We got some fun questions here. So people need to know that you do raise Black Angus beef cattle as a side hobby?
Yeah, I do. I'm still very involved in agriculture. I've got a heart and a love for it. So I just raise enough to hand chore cattle every night. I tell everybody it's my therapy. So I'm making a website right now where you can get on and buy some beef. So hold tight, but it's going to be Willpower Farms.
Willpower. All right. I love that. So besides Willpower Farms beef, where's your favorite place for a good steak?
It is hard to beat good old Texas Roadhouse.
Shut up.
I'm serious. Like a Fort Worth ribeye, medium rare, and some Texas Roadhouse rolls and like some mashed potatoes and green beans. Top it with the apple pie. Unbeatable.
Texas Roadhouse. You heard it here first, but that is spoken like a true man of Wabash County, baby.
That's
Let's
right.
go. I love it.
Simple creatures.
What's your most important company value?
Everyone shovels is our first core value. It doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, what your background is. Like, I'm no better than the guy who just started here today. Nobody's better than doing the work, and we're all here to chase towards a common goal. Everyone shovels.
I think Ashton Kutcher has a good quote or story about that, where he was like, whether it was sweeping up the shop at his first job or whatever to a part or whatever, like you're never better than the opportunity that's right in front of you.
Correct.
I mean, it's probably hard. Like, when you start getting success, it's hard to remember that and stay grounded sometimes.
Certainly.
But it's the most important. Like when your name is on top of the biggest building, it's like the most important time to know that everyone shovels.
Yep. It's so much bigger than even the work. It's like weaving our faith and our care for people within that. It's like we're all in this thing called life together. It's a brotherhood and a sisterhood of like we're all here to work through it together and try to help people.
How do you balance showing people that you're not above shoveling, but knowing that your company won't succeed if you're still the one shoveling?
Yeah, and transparency, and like the people who know is my work is done from the desk anymore, but I'll go out on the nights and weekends and join the boys and girls and have a good time. But transparency, that people understand roles and expectations and roadmaps, but still getting the job done and helping each other out. So
I love that, man. And so if everyone else, Will's also a helicopter pilot.
Yep.
So that was like when he got this side hobby, he decided to pick up flying helicopters.
Yeah.
What's been your best day trip in the helicopter?
Journey and I had been dating for 2 or 3 years. Journey's my wife, and I just threw her in the helicopter, and we flew down the White River and found a sandbank in the middle of the river and landed and had a picnic out there.
Like, dude, it's a movie. It's literally a movie, people. Like, if someone from Hollywood listens to this episode, like, let's get this thing produced and make it real. Flying, dude, like, you're making us, tomorrow's Valentine's Day and you're making us look bad. Like, Lauren's going to listen to this and be like, he didn't rent me a helicopter and fly me down the White River. What the heck? Dude, I love that. That's so cool. And so for those, Journey's his wife, they just got married like
3 weeks ago, 2 weeks
3
ago.
weeks ago.
Yeah.
Where was honeymoon? What did you guys do?
Yeah, so we got married at the Biltwell Event Center right down the road here. Highly recommend that. And then we went to Banff, Canada for the honeymoon. And
Did you fly your own helicopter up there?
No, but I found a helicopter company and their pilot went with us, but we went up flying, and so around the Canadian Rockies and the Purcells and the different mountain ranges.
Was it hard to take some time away?
No, I've got an awesome team where it's like I can be away for a week, 2 weeks. I could be away for a long time, and I've got a team well built that runs the business very, very well and makes the right extreme ownership decisions. So it's not hard for the business. It's hard on me. Like, I'm not a 7-day vacation sounds terrible to me. Like, I want 3-4 days compact, and I'm ready to be back to work. Like, I'm missing it. And just
Did you bring some serious energy back coming back from the honeymoon?
Oh yeah, I'm like sending 2 a.m. emails like, what do you think about this idea? Maybe we should start this process. And like, so when I'm on vacation, my team gets more of a load from me emailing from somewhere and bombarding them with fresh ideas.
Dude, I love it. This has just been an incredible conversation, an incredible story, man. I'm like, I'm not in the market to have heavy earth moved right now, but if I ever have, dude, you know that I'm calling. And I hope that anyone out there that's listening that might have some heavy earth that needs to be moved, because you're building American infrastructure
to build American dreams.
Build American dreams. I was gonna say fuel American dreams. Building American infrastructure to build American dreams. I think that's so powerful. We've come to the final portion of the show.
Awesome.
I ask these same 3 questions to everyone that sits in that chair.
Okay.
So the first one, what's something the world needs to know about Indiana?
Indiana is a state filled with good people that are connected to their land, their work, their families, their faith, their community. It's like It's just good people. I love Indiana. I couldn't imagine living anywhere else or raising a family anywhere else.
I think that needs to go on a commercial. Like, I think that the state of Indiana needs to take this footage and put that on a commercial. All right. What is a hidden gem in Indiana?
Chill's Ice Cream and Delights in North Manchester, Indiana. You have got to go. It is a world-class experience with world-class food. Guy named Jansen Kripe, who recently has became my brother-in-law, is a beast and making an awesome business out of it. He's starting to push into other locations and he's going to do big things, to point to your next question.
Dude,
but you got to go and discover Chill's Ice Cream.
And let it be known, like, I uncovered both of these guests independently. Like, it wasn't until Jansen came in and he started talking about Will, and I was like, how do you know? Like, and he's like, I know Will way better than you. He's about to be my brother-in-law. And like, Jansen's episode, awesome. Like, you talk about totally different businesses, but ultimate hustlers. Like ice cream and donuts to moving heavy earth, right? Incredible. Jansen, I'm going up this spring/summer. We're going to go up and check it out. His story also, again, incredible. Like, getting to throw up his first little shack and serve ice cream in the summers, like, it's funny how that all works out, where entrepreneurs find their way into each other's lives.
Right.
Like, dude, Jansen, you're a killer.
Everybody go try Chill's Ice Cream and Delights.
And his hidden gem was Rhinestone and Roses,
which is my wife and her sister.
And I actually, and then, oh my gosh, this is like the most Indiana thing. The most Indiana thing was your brother-in-law is Jansen.
Yep.
Jansen's sister runs Rhinestone and Roses. I was down at my girlfriend Lauren's house, and her soon-to-be sister-in-law, Carly Fitzpatrick, went to Purdue with Journey and was like talking about Rhinestone. And I was like, I know about Rhinestone. That was a hidden gem. Like,
Indiana is a big, small
like,
town.
I'm down in Batesville and they're talking about North Manchester and these,
I
like,
love Batesville.
these.
We've done a lot of work there.
Dude, it's a good spot. Did you work on the hospital?
We did not. We did work like right off the interstate, that Tractor Supply, that strip mall and stuff.
Yeah.
So we did some utility.
Look at that, dude. Come on. They're going to be so pumped that you mentioned Batesville. They love it when we talk about the Bulldogs. Final question for you, Will. I know you're out there. You're talking to people. You're seeing hustlers. Who's someone we need to keep on our radar? A Hoosier that's doing big things.
Aaron Brockett at Traders Point Christian Church and that ministry team, the amount of impact they're having on people and the faith in the community in Indiana is like empowering such big things and bringing God's word into fulfillment through people in their lives. And so I would point to them and what they're doing. I've called that my home church for a couple of years now, and just went through premarital counseling with them. And so it's such a blessing to grow in my faith.
I see, like, it's once a Sunday at least someone is tagging him on social media and something that he's doing.
You got to watch some of his sermons. I mean, it's amazing. And everybody else at Traders Point, like I don't go to the main campus. I go to their satellite location in Carmel, and it's incredible. Some others I jotted down that like I got to mention too right up on the list, like Don Palmer and Greg Enos. Have you ran across them yet?
I know Greg, yeah.
Awesome guys.
Is that Citizen 7?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Don Palmer's a guy I really look up to. And the amount of connections, like selfishly, the amount of connections they've helped me make in the business world, but just in general, like the amount of people, good people in Indiana, like Scott Lingle and Don Palmer and several clients that we have, like Tim Walter and Mark Gradison and Hagerman. Like, it's a big, small town of great people. And that's the only reason that we've had any taste of success is on the backs of and the shoulders of great people like that.
So our frequent listeners are going to know that I say this a lot. I think your story is the most applicable for. And I'm going to give a little story about like why all these people, where it makes sense that they'd want to help you. So you're driving down the road and you see someone hitchhiking. You stop and pick them up?
Oh, yeah, every day.
No, you don't.
Yes.
No, you don't.
Yes.
Okay, well, you might be. That's why you're the outlier.
If I'm in Indiana, if I'm in Ohio,
how the story
no
goes, how the story goes, right? The average American driving down the road sees a hitchhiker just standing there with his thumb up, does not pull over and help him out. But you see someone pushing their car. You see someone on the side of the road, like trying to get it to a gas station.
Putting in the work.
Are you, now it's 100% likely that I'm going to pull over and help them push their car.
Cancel the rest of my schedule.
Yeah.
Like or I see somebody struggling to change a tire. I drive a work truck. I'm like, oh, I can zip this thing on in 20 seconds.
Yeah, right. And it's like you see people pushing their car. So these seasoned entrepreneurs that have been around, they see you pushing your car, and you're not just standing there saying, I have this idea and I need some help. Like, no, they see you pushing and they want to pile on and help.
Yeah.
Again, you're the outlier because you stop and pick up hitchhikers. But like,
Sorry.
but like people see you pushing your car and they want to tag on and help.
Yeah.
And that's like an adage that has just resonated with me throughout my entire life since I've heard it the first time.
That's all it is.
And it's like you're out here pushing your car. And it's
That's
sick.
my story, is all of the people that have stopped to help push.
Incredible episode. You're gonna have to come back on it, and we can even talk less about the journey and just more about life and whatnot. Like we just have to. This is gonna be a repeat episode at some point because, like, my whole day is like people. I'm gonna go into this meeting in like 5 minutes or whatever, and I'm gonna bring some juice because I'm fired up, man. Will, thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for all the amazing work you're doing. Remember, he's building American infrastructure to help build American dreams.
Yep. Thank you, Nate.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Get In. If you like what you heard, make sure you leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. This show is made possible by our friends up at Sweetwater. Whether you're looking to start a podcast or take your content to the next level, click the link in the description to see all of my gear recommendations at sweetwater.com. If you want a behind-the-scenes look at everything we're doing across the state, make sure you follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Nate Spangle. Thank you so much for listening and being part of what makes the Hoosier State great. We'll see you next time here on Get In.